What's going on, guys? It's Highlighted Miners here, and today I want to talk about a topic that I get asked about a lot, and that is 2022 too late to start mining? What's a good budget build? And with that budget build, how much can I expect to make? So let's get into it. So in my personal opinion, right now is a great time to start mining. We have seen a huge increase in cryptocurrency prices from the beginning of 2021. And although we have been in a slight bear market, meaning cryptocurrency prices have seen a drop here recently, I do believe that we're going to stabilize out, and I do believe that cryptocurrency is going to continue to rise over the years. Again, this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor, and please only invest what you can afford to lose, because during these bear markets it is hard to stay profitable, so keep that in mind. But let's walk through exactly what I would buy if I was building a budget rig now. Again, links for all these products are going to be in the description below. If you want to go ahead and use those links, that supports the channel. I'd appreciate it if you hit subscribe for content like this moving forward. So let's get into it, guys. So I have to build a budget mining rig as well, and this is the frame that I utilize. So let's talk about this frame for a second. It's a pretty basic frame. One of the things I like about it is it does allow for up to 8 GPUs. I didn't want to buy one that just allowed for 6 GPUs, although the build that I'm going to be showing you is just a 6 GPU rig. This is pretty standard stuff. It's got some nice spacers here that you can tell for the motherboard, so that your motherboard doesn't short out. It's got a spot for one PSU or power supply. So the second thing is the motherboard. Now there's a lot of motherboards out there. I chose this one specifically because it has 6 PCIe slots. Really, when it comes to a motherboard, the most important thing is having those 6 PCIe slots. Now, PCIe slots are these slots right here. That's where the cards actually get plugged into. This is a mining specific board. But this one has been reviewed on a lot of different channels. I think Hobbyist Miner actually reviewed this, so if you want to check that out, go over to Hobbyist Miner. He can give you a full rundown of this board. Now when it comes to the CPU, when you're mining, the CPU does not need to be anything special. So what we have here is the Intel Pentium Gold G6400. It's the LGA 1200 chip slot, which you can see this is a 1200 Intel chip slot here on the motherboard. In terms of the RAM, I pretty much exclusively buy Corsair Vengeance RAM. That's just me. There's a lot of other people out there that maybe use Fury or G-Skill, and it really doesn't matter. This is just the RAM that I choose. You don't need anything over the 8 gigs because your rig isn't very RAM heavy. Alright, so for the SSD, we got this Kingston 120 gig. Really, you don't need a whole lot of space. A 60 gig SSD would work just fine, especially if you're going to utilize Hive OS on it, which I can do a separate video on how to set up Hive OS if you guys want. Now, let's talk about the power supply, because this is one of the most important parts of the rig. So the power supply is going to determine how many cards you can actually put on this rig. I personally have this 600 or 1300 watt power supply. Absolutely love it, and let's talk about why. So some of the main things that you need to look at when you're looking at a power supply is how many VGA slots does it have. Now the VGA slots are these here. As you can see that there's 6 of them here, right? These are your 8-pin to 6 pins or 8-pin to 8-pin connections. So this one has 6, which is perfect for this build, because if we're going to be putting 6 GPUs on here, we're going to be utilizing all 6 of these. Another thing that's important to look at is how many cables it comes with. As you can see here, we have 4 PCIe 8-pin to 8-pin, and then we have 2 PCIe PCIe 8-pin to 8-pin that's already daisy chained, meaning there's 8 pins on one side and the other side has two 8-pin connections. And we'll talk about how we'll utilize those to get the most 8 pins we can with splitters, but you would be utilizing all 6 of these cables. Let's go into risers. So risers, and in my opinion, GPU risers makes the best risers. You do not want to go cheap on the risers. You can burn out your cards, you can burn out your motherboard, so do not cheap out on the risers. I go with the 8 capacitor ones. They do have 6 capacitor ones, but again, I recommend the 8. So these risers, let's talk about their functionality. So as you know, there's these PCIe slots here. What you're going to be doing is actually taking these risers. They come with this PCIe slot to USB. You plug in the USB on one side, and then on the other side you plug that USB into here. You do have to power these risers. They take a 6-pin over here or over here. They do have a Molex and I believe a SATA. This one just has Molex. Do not recommend using Molex. But what you're going to be doing is plugging that small PCIe riser here, and then that PCIe riser top will sit right here where that arrow is pointing, and your cards will be set up here. So essentially you're taking the PCIe slot from the motherboard and extending it up to here where your cards will then lay. So let's talk about how you're going to power these cards. As we stated, we have the 6 slots, we have the 8 to 8 pin here, and we have the 2 8 to dual 8 pin daisy chained. Now what you're going to utilize to actually power all your cards are what we call splitters. So these are 8 pin back here to 2 8-pin splitters. So if you look at the power supply, you'll see these 4 8-pin to 8-pin. Then you put the splitter on the end and you'll have a single 8-pin that will go into one of these slots, and then the splitter will have 2 8-pins. One will be utilized for the riser to power it. It'll be a 6 plus 2 pin, so you can go ahead and use the 6 pin to power the riser. And then the other one will be to power the card. So you'll need 4 splitters for this specific build. And again, you'll be able to utilize this daisy chain. So this already has a 8-pin to dual 8-pin that you'll use for the other 2 cards. Now, this build specifically targets cards that have 1 8-pin on the actual graphics card to power it. A lot of the newer cards, especially the 30 series, I have 3 3070 Ti's that take 3 8-pins. In that case, you may have to add power supplies and get more splitters to handle the watts that those cards need. But since we're doing a budget build, we're trying to keep that cost down. So we're going to be talking about just cards that have a single 8-pin to power the card. When it comes to graphics cards, it's really hard to find them right now for the most part. For a budget build, I would look at MSI 570 8 gigs. They're not the most efficient cards, but they do have 8 gigs of memory. And why that's important is based on what size of memory the card has equates to what coins you can actually mine. So let's take a look at Ethereum. Now we are still proof of work. If proof of stake happens, you can no longer mine Ethereum with graphics cards. But you can see here, if they continue to kick Ethereum 2.0 down the road with 6 and 8 gig cards, you'll be able to mine Ethereum up till 2027. giving you plenty of time on these cards to make your money back. Now, if Ethereum does go to Ethereum 2.0, we have Ravencoin as another huge popular coin. Looks like 2030 is when that one will no longer be able to be mined by 8 gig cards. You got Ethereum Classic 2038. I'm sure Ergo is another one. That's 2031. So that's the real reason why I really like these RX 570s. First off, the price point. We can take a look at some recent sales and what they've been going for here. So 370, 410. Look at this one. 324, 310, 344, 305. So you guys sort of get the gist. These are great cards that allow you to continue to mine. They're a cheap entry point, and if you go ahead and get 6 of these, let's see if this will load up here and if he has some good pictures on it. Most of these cards will have a single 8-pin. This one doesn't show it, but that's fine. So most of these RX 570s will have a single 8-pin connector. So we can fit 6 of these on the rig that we just built with the parts that you guys saw. So that's the full guide on what you're going to need. You're going to need 6 of these. Let's just recap real quick. This is, in my opinion, a great frame for the price. It comes with a power cable that you can plug into the motherboard to power it. Another great motherboard. You got your 6 PCIe slots. We're going with the G6400 processor. You got just one stick of 8 gigs of RAM. You got that 120 gig SSD, and you have that big 1300 watt power supply. You're going to need 6 of those PCIe risers, and you're going to need 6 of these 8-pin to 8-pin splitters. And then again, 6 GPUs. So that's the full rig, guys, right? That's all the parts that we're going to need. I recommend using HiveOS. Like I said, I can make another video on that. But let's talk about what does the profitability look like for a rig with 6 RX 570s. So if we go to what to mine here, this hash rate 192 is based on what I'm getting on my RX 470s. I get about 32 hash rate, and my electricity cost is about 10 cents a kilowatt. So let's take a look at this here. So every single day after the cost of electricity, you can make about $7.80. In a week, you're talking about $54.57, and every month, $233.89. Now, of course, this is based on the current rate of Ethereum. If we look at the current rate of Ethereum, it is doing better now. As you can see, over the past month, we had seen a dramatic dip in profitability on this coin. This is numbers just for today. Again, this will change every day, every minute, every hour. But right now, this is the profitability that you can look at. So let's take a look at the build as a whole. And we can actually adjust some of these prices here. So let's take a look at this build as a whole. So you have the frame, which is $50, the motherboard, which is $227.95. Again, this is on January 15th, 2022. So these prices may change if you're seeing this video later. Your CPU's at that $132.95. RAM's at that $33.99. SSD's at that $29.99. Your PSU's at that $279.99. Your 6 PCIe risers from GPU risers is $80. Then you got $50 for those 6 8-pin to 8-pin splitters. And like we saw, I think that if you're patient, you can get some of those RX 570 8 gig cards at about $350. So all in, you're about $3 grand. Now, if you're going to utilize Hive OS as your mining platform, the first rig is free if you mine on Hive on Pool. And again, I can make a video on that. So here's your hash rate. When I made this price actually changed a little bit here. So it looks like it's $7.80. So let's go ahead and change that here. Your monthly profit was $233.89. $233.89. Perfect. All right. So payoff, meaning how many days does this rig have to be mining to pay off your initial investment, would be 382 days. Now these cards, like I said, will continue to mine as long as you take care of them, clean them, change thermal pads. They will continue to mine for you. So this is just the payoff period. Now this is straight payoff, meaning how long will it take to recuperate my $3,000? When I look at payoff, I don't assume that I need to pay these cards off in full. Let's say in a year you're mining, you want to go for newer cards, more powerful cards. These cards are going to have an intrinsic value. So what I like to do is do about half of this when I do my payout numbers. That just lets me know, hey, I can probably sell these cards in 4 or 6 months for $175. Look what that does. That brings your payoff to about $248. But guys, I hope this helped. I hope that we see a lot of new miners in 2022. I think that cryptocurrency is the way of the future. I hope that you can jump on board. And in my opinion, it is definitely not too late. So if you like the video, please don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button if you want to see more content like this. If you guys have a specific topic in cryptocurrency that you want me to talk about, please leave that in the comments. And we'll see y'all next time.